Hello, Paichos. Sorry, can't pronounce your name. Yeah, today we're going to be doing some architecture visualization and see how things go. And I think I'm going to start by preparing some materials that we're going to be using. Maybe create this flow material here, and we can see where we can apply them. Let's create a plane here. Find some textures here. Yeah, I'm doing some architecture renders or Archiviz. See how that will look. I'm not sure about this one here. This can also work nicely. We're going to first prepare the materials, and then we can put the building together later. I like this design here. Maybe we can create a design like this and then have a swimming pool that goes in a little bit. So let's start with that. Let's start by blocking out the entire scene. We can also turn on some overlays here to measure the height, different length. So when you go to edit mode, so when we go to edit mode, we can see the length of the edges. So if I select this, usually the height of the ceiling, floor to ceiling, is usually around 3 meters. So let me just have that be 3 meters. And we can, not sure how this can be, maybe, I don't know, 10 meters, something like that. And this can extend inside maybe 6-7 meters. I'm not going to be too precise with this. And now we can delete this face because the style I want to go for is let's reduce some up. I want to go for this design, but we're going to make it a bit different. Maybe put a swimming pool in the middle there. So now we want to have a wall on this side here. So if you want these measurements to update, you need to apply the scale of the object. Let me position my camera to be around here. Change my view angle, focal length to about 25. I think this can also be a bit wider. And I'm going to separate the walls to be a separate mesh or object, so that I can easily add in the solidify modifier. Let me turn on the cavity option here. Hello Tad, how are you doing? we are doing today we're doing some Archiviz renders here, so you can give this the same modifiers as well. Call this Archiviz. Archiviz. Let me speed up a bit so that pick up pace here. Okay, so we want a pole that extends into the inside here, so I'm just going to add a loop around here. We don't want something large, we want something thin like that. Now I can separate this part here. This will be now our pole that extends out like that, and maybe extends the length of the entire building like that. Something like that. I'm doing great, Chad. How are you? Okay, so this is what we have, and I think I can give this the solidify modifier for now. Then from there we can have this is going to be our grass. I think if I add that, let's start on working on let's start adding some lighting here. You can use a sun. If you want sharp shadows with the sun, you have to reduce the angle to be closer to 0. Down on contact shadows, can just find an environment image to use for lighting. Not sure, maybe I could use this. And we can go to the world settings and rotate this image so that we don't see that house in the background. Could have something like that maybe. Now we just need the grass. So for the grass I can extend this here. Just separate it into its own object. We don't need it to have the solidify modifier. Just extend it a bit like that. And I can subdivide it a few times. Let me turn off these overlays. Now what I'm going to do is use the displacement modifier, because this I want this to be grass, so and I don't want it to be just flat, so I'm going to use the noise, or this something like that, but I want these edges to be on the same level as the pool. So what I'm going to do is select those vertices around the edges like that, and give them, hello Vision TV series, welcome back. Give them a new vertex group, assign that vertex group, and in the yeah, in the displacement, I can use that as the vertex group, but I want the inverse. So these areas should stay intact, should be on the same level as the edges, but then we have that uneven surface, and we can even apply a subdivision surface like that. Now this can be our grass area, and I also want these edges to stay sharp, so I'm going to use Shift E to give them, I think it's okay, they're still sharp here. We can just bevel these edges. I want those edges to stay sharp like that. I also want most of our lighting to come from the lights we set ourselves. I want to have a bit of control over the lighting, so I'm just going to reduce the strength of our light here. Maybe let's use an area light. Let's look at some reference images. Let's add in this grass here. We can start by texturing using a texture, and then later we can try using we can add a hair system to create the grass. Otherwise, if we start by using the grass, by adding a particle system right now, it's going to slow down the computer, right, too much. So let's work on the grass here for a second, and let me isolate this. We can start by using some grass texture. I have something like this. Can unwrap these and see the text is too large right now, so I'm going to scale it down, something like that. Now the problem with scaling this down, you start seeing the seams of the tiling of the texture. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this and find another grass texture that I can add on top of that to break up some of that repeating. And let's use this here. This time we can give it a different level scale, and I just blend it with what we have. We blend it to grass so that we don't see the repeating too much. So you can see by just adding that, we just need to change to a different blending mode to get some variation. We still see some repeating, but that's okay. We can again blend this a little bit more, even more. But this time, instead of just using another grass, you can duplicate it and find, what is it called, gradient texture. We want to use the variation in height, the height difference between these surface to blend this grass with the other. So we can use texture coordinate mappings. Make sure that you are sampling from the object, and we want to rotate this so that we have a gradient, a ZY gradient. I think we can also just use the object. If you go under input geometry, we can find some variation directly there. But I think it's better we just stick to this here, and let's see You just need to rotate this instead of being a left to right gradient to be a top bottom gradient. And sometimes it's very difficult to see that with a surface that is this thin. So let me add a cube just to see the effect of this gradient. It makes it easy for us for you to check the direction of the gradient. You can see it's going from left to right. I will want it to go from top to bottom, so I'll just rotate the y-axis 90 degrees, and now you can see the variation in height. So we don't need this anymore. Now we can use this variation in height to make the white areas to be a little bit more brown. So we can get this grass here, and I mix it or blend it with the results of this blend. But this time we're going to use this as a mask. But if we look at what we have, you just need to first make sure this is mixed. You can see I can make the grass here to be like it's a bit more exposed than the other grass, just to make things a bit more varied, just to have a little bit of variation. Then maybe I can also reduce the scale of this, just so we don't have too much repeating. I don't think it's necessary to use this part here, so then we can add this to our grass like that. Then maybe use it as the roughness as well. Just add a math node on top of that to control the brightness like that. Can even add another blend node here with the operation of overlay. If you have any questions, you can ask, so that this is more interactive. Now we can change the color here, the overall color, maybe make it even darker like that. Now we can now add a particle system for the grass. Something like that. If you want to render the grass, you want to go under the render settings and change the hair shape from strand to strip. That way the grass has a little bit of thickness to it. Now we can go back to the particle settings, and under hair shape you can play with the diameter, the tip width, and everything like that. But I want to first reduce the strength, the strand height to something short, really short. But problem with that is that we're going to need quite a lot of hair strands to start, for us to be able to see any of these here. So we need, I don't know, let's try 10,000. That is still not enough. Even this, actually this could work, but yeah, still not enough. We can go on and turn on render children, and children, we can turn on, either use interpolation, simple interpolation. You can see we're starting to see some nice grass, and the colors we added in here. Also, you can see the grass here has a little variation in it, which I think looks a bit nice. And with lighting, you can see it even looks much better. but I can't work with this hair turned on. So first I'm going to turn it off for now, so that we can come in the final render, we can turn it back on. But for now, we will have to work with it turned off. Now for the pool, let's add some water first. I'm just going to use a plane like this. Yes, have it around there. Hello Eduardo Aurino, how are you doing? Good. Hope you are great. I think we can just use this, hit F and then P, and we can use this as the water surface. Then what we can do is give it a new material, make it reflective, but it won't look too reflective if it's just our material. If you want it to be more reflective, you want to give it a metallic value, and it will be more reflective. This is without the metallic value, and to make it look more interesting, I usually add a texture, a water texture for the displacement. Something like this. You can use that as a bump map texture. So let me just show you here. Let's first UV unwrap this, maybe reduce the size of the end cone here. You can see how this looks. Now we just have to reduce the size of the texture. Scale this down a bit, have something like that. The strength of the bump is too much, so you can have something like this. And what I usually do here, I also add some transmission, and the water looks way much better. And if you also wanted to add more, if you want to be fancy, make it look more real, you can give it, you can use the Freshnel effect to make the water closer to the camera look a bit greenish, and the water further look a bit more bluish. Let me show you what I want, what I mean here. You can add a covert color, and give this bluish color, and then a greenish color. This will make the water look a little bit, will make the water look deeper. Thanks for the vids. Greetings from Italy. Great. Hope you guys are doing fine. I don't want to talk about the issue that's going on in the world. YouTube doesn't like that, but I hope you are doing fine. Whatever you're experiencing, we are experiencing it as well everywhere. But yeah, let's connect this to the base color and preview this. I'm not sure if you can see the effect. Let's reduce the strength even further here. I think the effect has been lost. This blue color effect, it is still there, but not too visible. Maybe if we reduce, if you reduce the transmission, you can see the effect better. See, it's greenish here. It makes the water look a bit deep. And yeah, maybe just bring this a little bit down like that. something like that. Now let's look at the reference images we are using. We can add a marble material for this pole or surface. So let's create a new material, call this marble. Now can just get a texture here to use for that. I can use a marble surface or tiles. I'm not sure which would be best. I think let's just select this here. I'll have the this image. I'm just going to use, I'm not going to use everything here. I'm just going to use a few of these. Let's see. Okay, I need to use texture multiple images to if I want to select multiple images. Scroll down. Okay, this normal map, roughness, displacement, this. So we want the diffuse to be connected to the diffuse, and can UV unwrap this using smart projection. And we want the normal map. We should use the non-colored data to connect to the normal map, one that connected to the normal map, so that we get some normal information. Now I want to, so this is the specular, this is the roughness. I'm not sure which one would, I think this specular will give me better reflections than this roughness. So let's test them out together and see. So this is what the specular gives me, which I think are better reflections than the roughness map here. Let's see if we fit this to the specular map. You know what, I think we can use both of them, so just we need to make sure that they are set to non-colored data, and these to non-colored data. But this is giving us too much roughness, so I'm just going to add a math node here, and just to bring in some little bit of roughness. Now if your roughness goes to a negative value, remember the roughness of the principal BSDF shader accepts values from 0 to 1, but if you add in if you add in any math node that allows you to extend the values into negative values, you want to add a car ramp between the two, so that it can clamp, it can change the values from a negative value and give you a range of 0 to 1, so that you have true values that should go to the roughness value. Now you can play with this. I think this looks good. Just need to play with the scale of the texture. So I'm adding some texture coordinate mapping to that. Connect these to all the texture inputs and scale this down like so. And if we go to the UV map, I want these walls to be, the texture to be rotated differently from what I'm seeing here. So I'm just going to rotate this like that, and I think that should be better. Yeah. So I'll just name this 2 tiles. Tiles, and I think we can reuse this material in different areas. So we can use it as the surface of this, or you can use it as the floor. So I'll just select this, call this tiles. But what we can do is just change it a bit, maybe change the color. So I'm going to add a mix RGB node here. I've also duplicated the material so that I'm not changing whatever we had before. So can change this to overlay so that I can easily adjust the color. Let me first UV unwrap this. Let's try multiply. Make the material a bit darker. Maybe. Let's look at the reference image. I think they're using wood, so let's also switch to wood instead of that. So I'm going to just create a new material here and find myself a wood texture to use. I think we can go with this. Just need to rotate it, rotate the UVs, and adjust the scale of the texture. Okay, I don't like how this is repeating. Oh, it's repeating too much. Let's try a different texture with a bit of contrast, something like this. Now we just have to feed this into the base color and the roughness, and then the bump. And we can find some grunge textures we can use for the reflection map to break up those reflections just a bit. So I can add a convert math node here and just mix whatever we have here, and we can use that to break up this texture a bit. So I'm using this rust material. Just so we can get, it can break up our surface a bit. So let's add a color ramp here, adjust that. Can help us break up this material just a bit. Maybe we can also change the color because I think it's too bright. add a light just to see how this looks, how the reflections look. And first turn off, reduce the strength of the normal here just to see how the surface looks without. Still not liking this very much, so let's find a different word texture. Yeah, this actually looks far better than what we have. So let me just adjust the roughness a bit. Now let's work on the wall materials. Let's look at some reference images here just to drive some inspiration. Let's do this kind of glass interior here. These glass doors and windows. So for those, we're going to keep it very simple. Just going to create a plane like this. So we are creating the glass panels, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first give this material, this object here, let me first turn off the lights here, this object here, the same material as the surface here, this Control L, materials, and wrap this, then give it some thickness like that. Doesn't have to be too thick, something like that. And then add a bevel. Can reduce the offset just a bit like that. Make sure we turn on harden normals and then auto smooth. But we want to make sure that this is a separate material, so I'll call this wooden panels. Maybe play with I think I can change the projection mapping, the mapping here from UV to object. And I would prefer to have these rotated 90. Let's see. I want to rotate these to go up, and I think the easiest way to do that is just to use UV projection and just rotate the UV like that. And I can scale this. But the problem with using UV projection, since we are, hello Ivan Gachuki, how are you doing? Hope you're doing great. Okay, have something like that. Maybe this could be a bit darker. Now I can duplicate this again. Let me also scale up my noise. Now I can duplicate this to create a different panel, but this is going to be glass, so I'll just change this to glass. And we don't need this wood anymore. I can just select that, remove that, and I want to give this the transmission. And if we go to the material settings, you can turn on screen space reflections, and also make sure you have no shadows, and also the blend mode set to alpha blend. For the roughness, we want to reduce that significantly. So let's first see. Yes, I can first make sure that this is a bit dark like this. I don't need this value. And the alpha can also be reduced. Now we can scale this just a bit to have glass panels like that. Maybe make them a bit more reflective. Look at this here. So this is our roughness map. Okay, so you can see some dirt spots. Yeah, that's what I want for that. So let's look at the reference images again. I think these panels need to be a bit wider, so I don't know, maybe we can make ours not as wide. So let's use the array. I want that line to be there, so I'm just going to extend this just a bit, so we can use a few of those. Then I can duplicate this, so we have something like that. And then just extrude this. Actually, what I can do is just move my cursor to that point, and then change my pivot point to 3D cursor. Select this, Shift D to duplicate it, and then rotate this 90 degrees. I want a seam around there to be visible. Maybe I can play with the bevel here so that we have a larger bevel. Maybe something like that. I want something like that. And can do the same on this other side. Let me add an empty there, and I can just use that as a mirror object for this object here. And I should have something like this. And, maybe I can join this to this. So I want this to have some bit of symmetry, so I'm just going to select this face, here, move it closer like that. Now we can get these glass panels, Shift D, have them there as well. Can grab this face here, Shift D, or this panel here, but this time I don't want it to be wooden, so I'm going to separate it into its own object. First of all, I want it to have more thickness, so I'm just going to increase. Let me make sure I'm selecting the right objects. So increase. Yeah, want it to be separate, a separate object. Then I want it to have more thickness, because this is going to be a wall. So I'm going to give it a wall material. Let's isolate it for a second, and I don't want it to be wood, but I want it to have those details. You can see, I don't know if it comes through the stream, but you can see how much detail we have on these walls just as a result of this bump material setup. Yeah, so it gives that rough texture that we want. And maybe I can give it a cream material, not pure white, and I can use that material for this as well. So material, so you can go in now and start building up everything. So actually we can have a door around here and another one around there. Now let's start working on some lighting here, just so things can look much better. So I'm going to put in some lights in there. Let's increase. Just turn on contact shadows. Maybe this can be about 500. Can also turn on contact custom distance, like this. Can duplicate this a few times, maybe another light there. Duplicate this again. I'm going to go back to the world settings so that I can adjust this a bit. Maybe we can have something like that. Now let's see, reduce the environment lighting again, just so we can have more control over the lighting of our scene. And for this, okay, I think I can increase the distance for this a bit. And let's pick the lighting as well. So I'm going to add in an irradiance map here and see what happens if I bake this lighting, if it will have any effect. Sometimes when I use the irradiance map, sometimes the results are better, sometimes they are not, so, or sometimes you don't even see any difference. So let's see how things look.